What's up, Fine Arts? Hey, it is such an honor to get to be with you guys here today. I'm so grateful to get to represent my absolute favorite place to be in the world today, Access Church. I'm so excited. I have a thought to share with you guys today. I was blessed to win first place for Short Sermon Senior. I have a message that I believe will be helpful for you guys today. The title of my sermon today is 6 Words That Can Change Your Life. So let me start off with a question. Hey, by show of hands in the room, how many of you guys have ever had a moment where you had to stop and ask yourself, how did I even get here? Come on, by show of hands. You ever had to stop and ask, how did I even get to this point? I work at Publix, where shopping is That's right. And most of the time it is. I had this experience just recently, though, that was anything but a pleasure. It was this regular day on the job. I was just doing my thing when I started noticing some panic going on in the store. I hear these sirens go off outside, and I come to find out that there's a man in the parking lot with a gun who had just robbed a store in our shopping plaza. And while all this is going on, in the same moment, my manager runs up to me and goes, "Joey." Now, in my mind, I'm expecting her to go, "Joey, don't worry about it. You're good. You're all safe and sound here in the store." But she doesn't do that. She goes, "Joey, we need you to go get some shopping carts in the parking lot." Now, for those of you in the room who are worried, I didn't die. But I remember thinking to myself that day, how did I even get here? I thought I was just going in to work my minimum wage job, and I almost lost my life over a couple of shopping carts. Have you ever had to stop and just ask yourself, how did I even get here? I want to take a moment this afternoon, and I want to look at the story of Joseph. This is a special story to me. I was actually named after Joseph. And you see, I think it's easy, if you've read this story before, I think it's easy if you've read the story of Joseph, to look at the highlight reel of his life. How he started off in the father's house, would end up as second in command over all of Egypt. I think it's easy to look at the highlight reel of his life and say, I want that. But I believe the problem with so many of us as believers is that we often want the promise of God without the process. So Joseph's life starts out, and really the whole story of Joseph can be told from the perspective of these 4 houses. Joseph starts off in the father's house, where he's loved, he's the favorite of 12 sons, and his brothers hate him so much that they decide to literally sell him into slavery. And so at only 17 years old, Joseph goes from being in the father's house to being in a slave house. He gets shipped off to Egypt, and in Egypt, he ends up at this man named Potiphar's house. And the Bible says that Joseph worked hard, and that the Lord blessed everything Joseph did. And because of this, Joseph got promoted to being in charge over the whole house of Potiphar. So things are finally starting to look pretty good, but then one day, Joseph is forced to make a life or death decision. And he actually makes the right choice, but because he makes the right choice, he gets falsely accused for doing a crime that he didn't commit, and he's imprisoned for it. So if you're keeping track, Joseph started off in the father's house, was then sold into a slave house, and is now in a jailhouse. And you gotta pause here for a moment, and you gotta think to yourself, how many sleepless nights Joseph must have had? How many times he must have wondered to himself, where is God in all of this? How did I even get here? Time goes by, and Joseph comes across these 2 men, these 2 former assistants to Pharaoh, king over all of Egypt. And these 2 men are troubled because they're having these dreams at night that they can't understand, and it's worrying them. And so Joseph, using his God-given ability, is able to help interpret the dreams of the 2 men. Well, the men get released from the prison, and as time goes on, Pharaoh himself has a dream this one night that he can't understand. And so one of the former assistants is able to recommend Joseph to Pharaoh. So Joseph gets brought out from the prison, he's brought before Pharaoh, and one more time, Joseph, using his supernatural ability from God, is able to help interpret the dream of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was so pleased with this that he elevated Joseph to second in command over all of Egypt. So Joseph started off in the father's house. He was then sold into a slave house, then a jailhouse, and is now in the king's house. And Joseph would end up devising a plan that would end up saving the whole region of Egypt, including his brothers who betrayed him. Here's the crazy thing about the story of Joseph. Here's the kicker. There's this phrase that appears 4 times in Joseph's life. It's a 6-word phrase. It appears 4 times in Genesis chapter 39. And the phrase is this: and the Lord was with Joseph. Now, it's easy to see how the Lord was with Joseph in the father's house, or in the king's house. But the crazy thing is this phrase appears 4 times, all when Joseph was at his seemingly worst moments. You see, the phrase appears when Joseph was sold into slavery, when he was in Potiphar's house, when he was falsely accused and imprisoned, and when he was shown favor in the prison. This phrase appears all when Joseph was at his seemingly valley moments. You see, if you were to ask Joseph, he would have never been able to understand how God was using the valley moments of his life as to move the pieces for his glory. But it's not often until we look back over our life that we're able to see the goodness and the faithfulness of God. I would say it like this: we live our lives forward, but we understand our lives in reverse. As I reflect on my 5-6 years now of competing in fine arts, I would have never been able to see how God was using fine arts as a platform in my life. But as I look back now, I can see how God was using fine arts as a launching pad for a dream that I now have in my heart to be a lead pastor one day. Thank you. So let me end with this. What would it look like for every single one of us in the room today if we made this decision to live our lives with a holy sense of confidence in 2 things? One, in what Psalm 37:23 says, that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And 2, when I have those how did I get here moments, I can remember that if the Lord was with Joseph, he will be with me too through everything that I go through. Thank you.